Well, we're here in the biblical city of Jericho, where two worlds meet. Jericho is a city tracing back some 8,000 years, one of the oldest cities that we have record of. And one of the reasons why it's so old is because it was the bridge between the east and the west. It was strategically valuable because of that location. It had water, it had a deep well, so it was valuable for that. The Romans saw the value that they had a garrison just south of this area, knowing that if they protected this area from anybody coming from the east to the west, they could keep the west side secure, because this area came through. It was the really the passport to the Mediterranean, the western side. So in all the ways that Israel had failed in the wilderness, this was their first encounter as they looked to enter into the promised land. It's fascinating to realize that Joshua was told just by the people, just follow God like Moses did. And so you see him having similar experiences like Moses had. For example, he takes off his sandals when he enters holy ground. He has an experience in which he hears the Lord. And so all of the things that Moses had, Joshua experiences, including crossing the Jordan. The Jordan's just a little ways from here. And he crosses over the Jordan, and when the Israelites cross over and they take the stones from the bottom of the Jordan and put them on the other side as a monument for God's working, little do many people realize they crossed during flood stage. And the Jordan could have expanded as much as a mile. So it was just as Moses took the people of Israel out of Egypt by crossing through the sea, so Joshua leads the people into the promised land through the waters being parted. Israel had not lived by faith, and so they were in the wilderness. And now will the people live by faith? And this is the place. In this area here, in Jericho, will they trust the Lord? That's the question, and they do. And God is faithful, and they have to simply walk around the city one day, next day, and finally on the seventh day, 7 times. And the big question that hangs in the story is, will Israel believe God? And they do. And God gives them the victory, just as He'd promised them when He sent in the spies, I'll give you the land. But now they believe, but before they didn't. The story goes on from here, is that traditionally this mountain right here is the Mount of Temptation, in which Christ is said to ascend after He comes out of the Jordan. He goes up on top of the mountain. And this is where the enemy tempts Christ. And if we think about the temptation, He's tempted in 3 specific areas. If you read in Luke chapter 4, He's tempted to give in to comfort through the bread. He's tempted with control with the nations and being the kingdoms of this world being given to him. And then he's tempted with approval and throwing himself off the Temple Mount so that people can see that God authorized him to be the Messiah through rescuing through the angels. And yet he doesn't fall for any of it. He lives by faith. He doesn't need to go through 40 years of wandering like Israel. He lives out what he's supposed to believe. And so in all those ways, he's tempted and proven to be the Messiah that we need. So if we place our trust in Him, God will give us His righteousness as if we have never failed in sin because of what He has done for us. And that is good news.